Hello. Hi, welcome. I'm going to make a video today about this bottle in Aura-Soma, yellow-pink, bottle 22. It's called the Rebirth bottle. And I'll also be mentioning the tarot card, which is related to it. You see number 22 on there as well. You see the yellow-pink in the middle, the colors of the man, the clothes of the man. It's called the Fool, the Rebirth of the Fool. And I'll also be talking about this symbol behind me, this one here. It's called the Tree of Life. And you have both bottles and tarot cards being placed in here. Each bottle, each card has a place within that picture. So I'll be talking about that. But what I want to do first is I want to tell you a story, because that's how this idea came to me. And I'm very interested in 22 at the moment, because some of you probably saw maybe a couple of days ago, it was the 22nd of February, 2022. So lots of twos in that number, 22, 0, 22, 0, 22. And so this idea of rebirth is very much with me at the moment. And in that context, it reminded me of a conversation I had many years ago. A client in a consultation, obviously no names, so I can talk about the story, I think. A client who, during a consultation, they realized that in their life, that in themselves, they didn't feel enough. I suppose they'd come to a place in their life where the job, the money, the thing, that just basically their position in life at that age in life that they were at, it was, I wouldn't say disappointing, but it was like, this is it. You know, this is what I have. And it's like a sense of not enough. And so that deeply touched her, because she felt, sad about that. And then as the conversation unfolded, we came to the subject of beauty. In fact, she asked me if I thought I was attractive. And my answer was, not really. But when I think that what really makes a difference is when I'm in a certain space or state, if my eyes are light, if I'm feeling happy, then I think that really does help in that kind of radiating out some kind of attractiveness. And she agreed. So we came to this conclusion that it's more about a state of consciousness. And then this fed back into the first subject of not feeling enough, because if the state of consciousness is different, a state of, we can be in a situation and either not feel enough or feel enough. And if we have that feeling of enough, and then the light comes into our eyes and we radiate happiness. Now that, I would say, is the idea of the Fool. But no, this is the idea of the rebirth. This is the idea of the rebirth. It's a change of consciousness. I'm jumping to the conclusion in a way. When we reconnect with spirit, see, for me, I feel most in touch with that. Absolutely. When I'm teaching, I honestly think I'm in a different kind of vibration. And that really, never happier. And so that radiates out. And because I'm, in a way, my state of consciousness has lifted. Now, here's the really interesting thing, because the Fool has two versions. It has this one, this might be easier. This one, which is the 0, corresponds to this bottle 0, royal blue, deep magenta. And the Fool has a second version, which is the rebirth of the Fool, the yellow pink. Now, the royal blue is a color for, the whole thing about this bottle is called spiritual rescue. And I think the tendency here with the royal blue is to be elsewhere, to be in some kind of not shining. This represents the state from which everything comes. It's the 0. Nowhere can it be found here. It's elsewhere. but everything is built out of it. And so I have, royal blue is one of my favorite colors, but I realized that, it's, in a way, it's my tendency to want to be elsewhere. When I was younger, I used to like to read Lord of the Rings. I loved Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And it was like a world I wanted to be in. It's not here, it's somewhere else I wanted to be. So in a way, it's that spiritual world was elsewhere and I wanted to be there. And when we were talking, this client and myself, and this idea of what makes beauty here, it's when that consciousness, spiritual consciousness, comes into this world, into this place. So the 2-2, the rebirth, is when we remember, when spirit shines within us in this world. It comes from zero, it comes from the spiritual world, but it appears here. It's here that it shines and radiates out. So this is the rebirth. And along with this, and connected to the idea then of 2 now, and 2-2, with 2, okay, so this is really interesting. And in a way, it does go a bit to this whole picture, because through this tree, there is a consciousness coming down. And ultimately, it manifests in 1 appearing here. And we are the one. You are one, I'm a one. I'm a one who's arrived in this world. In fact, in the old days of tarot, the Fool, which is the 0, used to be placed, not at the top where it is now, but it used to be placed at the end of the sequence, after the world, after 21. The Fool used to come after the world. It's the spirit that appears in this world. And little by little, it seems to have made its way back up to the top of the tree, to the world of spirit, before it comes down. But in the old days, the Fool was appearing in this world like a beggar, with his, this is a better picture, he's arrived here, he's falling off the cliff, he's coming from the spiritual world. But in a way, he's the traveler in this world, the one who's arrived in this world and will travel through it, the soul that's arrived and will travel through it. But when we come to this world, there's a forgetting, and there's usually a forgetting. We forget our spiritual self, we forget our soul dimension. And so we arrive in this world and we believe in this world. We become clothed in the material world, the physical body and the needs of the body. And if we don't keep the body alive, then we won't be here. And so we believe in the physical. And so that becomes more important than the spiritual. That's in the Bible, the difference between the tree of knowledge, which is to do with the outside world, and the tree of life, which is to do with the inner world. This is the tree of life, of course. So we come into this world and we believe in the outside world and we become shaped by it. And the rebirth is to remember the spiritual self. The spiritual self shines through, and that's what makes, a person look more radiant in this world. It's the spiritual consciousness that shines through into the world. And we connected it in some way, or I'm connecting it in some way, with the 2-2, because before 2 is 1, and 1 is the self that's arrived, but in the face of the other, which is the 2, the world around us, our confidence, our belief in ourselves gets knocked. And we also begin to take on the messages of the world, and little by little, our vibration is brought down and our spiritual self is more hidden inside, and we've become more kind of shaped by the world around us. And that's where I think this feeling of not enough came, that, as I spoke about with this client, or she spoke about, this feeling of not enough was, somehow through the messages of the world, through the experiences of her life, her radiant self, the shining within her had been undermined. She didn't, in the face of the world, the other, the 2, because if I'm the 1, then the 2 is the world I find around me. In the face of the other, herself had been undermined. You see, her vibration had been brought down. And I think the solution to that, in a number kind of way, 2-2, is when we back ourselves. What does it mean by back? Like, I support myself. If I support myself, then I don't need to shrink. I can stay strong. I can stay shining. There's a famous, I wrote something about this actually many years ago. And if you want, email me at the end. I'll put my email down below and I'll send you out this article. I wrote an article about a man who is an English, he was on TV. He's called Jimmy Hill. You probably haven't heard of him. He was in the world of football. He was a player and then he was a manager and then he was on TV and he used to do the big Saturday football program. And, you know, for 15 years, 20 years, he was Mr. Football. So everyone of my generation knew him. I thought he's got to be a 1. Somewhere in his birthday, he must have a 1 because he's so full of himself. And I was amazed. His birthday was definitely 22, maybe 22 of April. I can't remember. I think it was. But in any case, he was definitely a 22. The 22. So I was very shocked about that. And then I thought about it. And the conclusion I came to was that he backed himself. He was very outspoken. He thought he was right, but he didn't mind being wrong, I think. But in himself, he always thought he was right. And because in a way, he believed himself. He supported himself. He supported his own point of view. He didn't have what so many of us, I mean myself included, a second thought, a doubt. He didn't have any doubts about himself. In a way, he was a really positive too, because he was supporting himself. He wasn't undermining himself. So this lady in the consultation, in a way, she was undermining herself. She wasn't supporting herself. And as I say, the conclusion of it was, when we support ourselves, something of our deeper self can shine through. There's a kind of a happiness. For me, I'm lucky because when I'm working, I'm lifted into that vibration. So that's, in a way, that helps me. When I'm not working, then of course I can come down because I'm just back to me and the two is the world around me. But somehow when I'm working, it's more the zeros living through me. So that's great. Okay, well, that was a lot of talking. I didn't really talk about this, but simply top to bottom, there's a journey of spirit down. We arrive in the world forgetting. So generally, we start off being kind of the unconscious self. You know, something's lost in the shadow, in the mystery. And can we bring that spiritual dimension to here and now? Can I shine my spiritual self into the world? So that's the 2-2. The next video I'm going to make for you is going to be about the Phoenix, which is also a rebirth story. And if you're interested in these ideas and this subject, I'm doing a course on numerology. I'm going to share my basic ideas about number and how I use it in looking at birthdays. So if you're interested in that, again, just send me an email and I'll send you out the information. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And I'll look for the stop. Thank you.